What's going on, everyone? Welcome back for another updated settings video. Season 13 has arrived, and I have a ton of changes from the previous season that you are going to want to check out. As always, I highly recommend you watch the video throughout. Do not skip the gameplay tab. There's a lot of important stuff there, and we will get to my beaming settings later on. Let's waste no time. Just jump right into it. Interact prompt style, I just like the default. If you don't want as much stuff on screen when you're hovering over stuff, you could do compact. Button hints, I like to leave as on. You could turn this off if you are very confident in your skills, but I like to just have them on just because why not? Crosshair damage feedback, I like to have this off. I will say you should probably leave this on if you are a Caustic or Watson player, so you can tell when someone goes into your gas or your fence. However, I don't really play these legends too often, and I find that it's not really needed. Damage numbers, I like to do stacking. You could do both, but I definitely recommend you at least do stacking. Ping opacity, I have changed this to default. I found my old man eyes could not see the faded ones once in a while, so I am now on default. Obituaries, I have as on. Mini-map rotation, I have as off. Many people like to have this on, but I like to have north always be up on the mini-map. Weapon auto cycle on empty, I like to have this as off. You could have this on, but I don't want the game to tell me when to swap weapons. I want to swap weapons on my own. Auto sprint, I have this as off just because I've always had it off. If you want to save your controllers, your sticks a little bit, you could have this as on, but for me, I like to have it off. Double tap to sprint. Likewise, I also have this as off. Jetpack control, I like to have this as hold. Some people will do toggle. I always found that to be really weird. I just want to hold the jetpack and then release when I want to fall. Incoming damage feedback, I have as 3D. Taking damage closes death box or crafting menu. Arguably the biggest thing on here. This absolutely needs to be off. If you're armor swapping and you get shot right before you get that armor, then it's gonna rip you out. So you want to have this as off. Pop up, I just leave this as on. Streamer mode, I'm not a big streamer or anything, so I'm off. Anonymous mode, I also like to have this as disabled because I don't care. I'm not a huge streamer. Usage sharing, also don't care. I leave as enabled. Performance display, I have as off because I like my recordings to be as clean as possible. You could have this on if you want to see why you're lagging. Club invites, I have as disabled because y'all spam me club invites. Communication filter, I have as everybody. Reticule, I have as custom, which is actually the green one I've been rocking, which is 16, 255, 16 if you do want to use that. I find the green works in pretty much every scenario, and it's very vibrant and I can see stuff really easily. Colorblind mode and accessibility settings, I don't really do much here. Everything's pretty much off or normal just because I do not need them. We're going to quickly go video tab before we go to controller. We got brightness is pretty high. I don't want to miss anything because someone's like crouching in the corner. Field of view, I use 104. Always have used 104. I recommend at least anything over 90-95 so you can see a lot more. You don't have this higher, then you're just not gonna be able to see as much. Field of view ability scaling, I leave this as disabled. Basically, if you go into like a Bloodhound ultimate, it's gonna change your field of view, and I don't want this. I want consistent field of view through all my ability usage. And sprint view shake, you don't really want your screen shaking around when you are sprinting, so I leave this as minimal. Audio, this is all up to you. I like this right here. It has a lot to do with my recordings and like party chat and that kind of thing. I don't like the music to be too loud, and I want my dialogue volume to be kind of like half, so I'm not missing anything. Controller layout, what y'all want. Button layout, I use button puncher so I do not accidentally melee. Basically, if I have default, I accidentally hit the right stick in once in a while and I'm just punching into the air and I usually die because of this. So I do button puncher. I have paddles. If you don't have paddles, I highly recommend evolved. You can basically control your entire character without really needing to take your thumbs off the stick to like jump or crouch. So evolved would be what I would pick if you are a no paddle user. If you're a paddle user, then I would recommend button puncher. Can't do button jumper. Some people also like ninja, but for me, it's gonna be button puncher. Stick layout, I leave as default. Interact, reload button. I like to do tap to use and reload. Basically, I just want everything to be tap. I don't want to have the hold to do anything, so I like the ease of use here. Crouch button, I do as hold because I like the bunny hop. If you have as toggle, it's a lot harder. So I do hold so I can bunny hop. Aim button, I also do hold. Survival slot, I like to leave on. Some people turn this off so they can like spam their heirlooms, but I don't really find that necessary, so I do on. Trigger dead zones, I leave default. Menu cursor speed, this is also probably one of the biggest settings that people overlook, I would say. You basically want this to be as high as possible within your reason to control. The faster you can move your cursor around and control it, the faster you can get armor swaps, and the faster you can loot. So I recommend anything probably just about past halfway in the middle. And that would work nicely. Movement aiming is all controlled by ALC. Get to that in a second. Movement dead zone, I do small, inverted look off. Vibration, I have to have off because I've always had vibration off for about 16, 17 years now. I feel like now when my hands are shaking in the gunfight, it kind of like makes me aim worse. So I leave this as off. Some people like the feedback, but it doesn't really bother me. Then we have my advanced look controls. These are pretty huge. If you are looking at this for the first time, it's probably overwhelming, but it's pretty simple to be honest. Basically on dead zone, I like to have at 8%. You want this to be as low as possible without you having stick drift. For me, it's around 8%. I find anything lower than this, I'll have stick drift. Outer threshold, you definitely want this to be 1%. Basically, this means your stick going all the way to left or right or whatever, all the way on the outside of the curve. You have the maximum amount of kind of response that you can get and the maximum finessing you can do. Response curve, I like to have this as 8. Some people like to have this all the way down at 1, which is like linear. I like a more classic feel, which is why I do 8. Per optic settings, I pretty much start at 0.9 and then go up by 0.2 all the way up to 2.0 for the 10 times. Nothing too crazy here. If anything, I probably could fine tune my 8 and 10 times a little bit because I never use these, but I don't really find it worthy of my time. Now for the general movement and look around, I have yaw 330, pitch 260, and the rest are 0. Basically by doing this, every movement that I do with my 6 and looking around is very consistent. I don't have anything ramping up. I don't have anything accelerating at a kind of unknown kind of way. So every time I move my sig one little way, I know what it's going to feel like. As for yaw and pitch, I have these a little bit different because frankly, when you need to look up, you're only looking up 90 degrees. But if you need to turn around and do a 180, you got to do 180. So you need to look left and right a little bit faster than you would have to look up. But for me, I like to have it a little bit lower. I also find if the pitch is a little bit lower, sometimes like my hip fire control is maybe a little bit better. Maybe that's just in my head. But again, similar thing for the aim down sights. I do 120 and 110. And I find these work very, very well for me where I can pretty much beam everyone very easily. And I don't want any ramp up when I'm looking left, right, or up and down. So I leave these all at 0. Target compensation on, melee target compensation on, and target compensation style default. This is all your aim assist settings. You want to have this as on or default, or you can turn these off if you want a brutal time and a very rough experience. So that is my settings for Apex Legends Season 13 Saviors. If you want more to improve your skill, check out the video on screen, hit that like button. I appreciate the support so much. As always, happy gaming, Legends.